Okay, so here's a look at the box it came in. As you can see, this one is triangular, probably just because the engine is so much bigger than the electric one. And there is the box that the electric one came in as well. And just taking a quick look at the box, you'll see that they're both 4-in-1s, but there is a difference here in the pole saw. If you look at this pole saw here, it has an articulating head, which means you can angle it, whereas the one in the electric one did not. It was just straight, which is really no problem. Now you're probably wondering, why would you want it to articulate? And I actually know why, and I'll demonstrate that. But the hedge trimmer attachments look to be the same, but we'll put them side by side and find out. And of course, there's the string trimmer head, and then the fourth part of the 4-in-1, as you remember, on the electric was the brush cutter blade, and this one also has the brush cutter blade. So let's open up this box, and we'll put the other box away somewhere, and pull out all the parts and see what we got. Just a quick peek at how it came packed. As assumed, the engine is over here on this side. So, and it's a big one, 26cc. All right, let's pull it all out. Okay, so here's a look at everything that came in the box. We'll go over these things one at a time. Of course, we'll start with the main unit, the power unit here. As I mentioned, it is 26cc, which is pretty necessary to run some of these attachments here, especially the pole saw. The chainsaws take the most power, and so it looks like it's ready to do that. It is going to be able to do that. And so the next one down is the string trimmer, and on the electric one I used the string trimmer. This looks identical, and we'll start putting these things side by side in a moment, but it actually worked really good. It was really handy. Now down, the next one is the hedge trimmer. It is an articulating hedge trimmer, as was in the electric one. That is probably exactly the same one, and it worked very well. That extra pole there is an extension for that hedge trimmer attachment, and it stays on there permanently. And then moving down here, we have the kind of the neatest one here. This is the pole saw, the chainsaw pruner attachment. As you can see here, it does have the reservoir where it's going to be able to hold the lubricating oil rather than having to lubricate it constantly. What you're seeing there is a little feeder tubes to well, that's we'll investigate that more later. It looks like it's lubricating the gear in there along with the chain. Yeah, we're gonna have to check that out. So of course the bar is not on there yet. This bar is going to attach right there, and then you will have what looks like a chainsaw at that point. And then there's your guard for that, and it's clearly articulating because you see all those little pivot points where this thing's going to be able to twist. This is going to be neat. This thing here is a guard for the string trimmer. We'll put that on in a moment. There's your handle. Then over here you've got your owner's manual. Came with a wrench in there, and then another wrench here, and some zip ties for something, we'll find out. And then this is a support strap in case it's too heavy. It goes around your shoulder to help you hold it. And then under here, you can barely see it, it's got a guard around it, but that is your brush cutting blade along with its mounting hardware, which would be unique for it. And that, in a nutshell, is everything that came in the box. And so we will start going over these things one at a time. And for a little bit of assembly, of course, some of these things have no assembly. Like, I'm not going to explain how to put a handle or a guard on, I don't think. But we may go over the assembly of the pruner, and that's probably all we're going to show, because everything else is quite easy. Okay, so I don't know what's going to be in the next scene. Okay, so now I've got everything put together, and I know I've got a big mess on the table, but I'll explain. So the gas-powered one is right there. This is what it looks like when it's all put together. I put the string trimmer attachment in there. It attaches with the little spring-loaded stopper pin. Slide it in there until it pops through that hole, and then you tighten down that clamp there, and you're all set to go. And that worked perfectly. And I got the chainsaw all put together. For assembly on that, just basically remember that the teeth on the top go away from you and the teeth on the bottom come toward you for how to install that chain. And as for the actual assembly of that, it's so close to what I did on the electric, so at this point or some point in this video, I'm actually just going to include the clip of where I was putting the electric one together. It explains how to put together a chainsaw. Now the pole saw, the trimmer, the hedge trimmer attachment went together exactly like the one on the electric. And by the way, that is what's in the foreground, and I will explain that in a second. The pole was just as difficult to attach as it was on the electric. Basically, the hole, you need to back out just a couple of millimeters to line up the hole to tighten down that screw. Just keep that in mind when you're trying to find that hole. And then the next thing I want to show, because the question was whether or not the attachments for the electric one, that's what this one is. Previously I did the review for the electric 4-in-1, and now we're doing the review for the gas-powered 4-in-1. And the question was, do all the attachments interchange? And basically the short answer is no. And here's the reason why. These are the two hedge trimmers. As you can see on this end, they're very, very similar. I think this apparatus here is exactly the same. But when you get down to the bottom of the pole, the way it attaches is different. This one has the little spring-loaded pop-up stopper, and this one does not. It just has a hole on this side. Reason being the way it attaches. As I just showed, this one has the hole in the base unit where the attachment has the spring-loaded stopper that clicks up, and then you tighten it down with that clamp there. But the electric one goes a different way. It's got this pull-up pin that you line up with the hole, and then you drop it back in. This thing pulls out. You get the idea. So anyway, so if you have all the electric, if you have the electric and the gas, unfortunately, it looks like the attachments don't interchange. Now you could jam it in there and just clamp it down as hard as you can and hope it stays in there with no pin if you have the electric attachment. But why would you do that? Because if you bought this, you have the correct one. Anyway, just wanted to touch on that. At this point, we are going to gas it up and take it out to a yard, and we're going to start with the string trimming. I'll explain that when we get there. But and then later on we'll do the hedge trimmer and the pole saw, and we will attach the brush cutter. So let's go there now. Okay, so here we are out on location. I've got this area, I've mowed the grass already, and we just got to trim it up. And I've got it all gassed up. I've loaded it up with 50-to-1. I believe it is 50-to-1. Yeah, I did start it up already. It's running really good on 50-to-1, so I think it is. But we're going to do some string trimming. Now the irony is, in the background we've got somebody else string trimming making a lot of noise. So I'm kind of around the corner here. But then we're also going to do some edging with it up there. So you turn it on its side and edge with it. So this will be a good test area for the string trimmer, and then after that we will switch the attachments and we'll do some hedge trimming. So let's get started. Okay, so here we go. I gotta say it did a really good job. It is as good, or this is actually performing better than my Echo right now. I don't know why that is. I think it's the string type. But over here on the edging, of course, I need a little practice string trimming with the edging. I use a edger, a metal blade edger, so it certainly does it. But I'm not completely accurate in my string trimming edging, but it definitely does do it. So it's really more of a 5-in-1. It's an edger too, and that one over there. And what we're going to do now is we are about to change the attachments on it. We're going to take off the string trimmer and put on the hedge trimmer and trim these hedges. Okay, so the hedge trimmer attachment works just fine, as you see there. And I'm sure you noticed the way it can articulate to get the top of the other one that was over there. That one there. Really handy. Don't have to get up on a ladder to make it level. You can just tilt the top of the trimmer. And so that demonstrates it did absolutely fine. These two attachments work very well. And at this point we move on to the chainsaw, which is, you could call that a pruning saw attachment pole, and then the brush cutter. And for that we're going off to that field that I always test things in. There's all kinds of possibilities out there, and so that's a good way to demonstrate something. So that's where we're going now to demonstrate the pole saw. Okay, so here we go. I have the chainsaw attachment attached, and it is all oiled up. Taking a good close look at this, remember when we were first unboxing it, we saw these tubes here. We see that they run into the wall, lubricating the bar for sure, but then they run under here and into there, and I'm not sure completely because there's a grease zert here for like grease, which wouldn't be oil. So I don't think it's lubricating that gear. I think it might be lubricating the swivel. But either way, make sure that you've got oil in the reservoir. Speaking of this, it would be a good time to demonstrate this. This is an articulating head, which is rare for these. Basically, you pull out the pin, you see the, watch when you do that, the whole thing will drop. And you have all these different settings that you can set it to, all different angles. Now, why would you want that? And that is so that you can get to the other side of a branch. Say, for example, you have a branch growing out over a house, and when you cut it, you need it to not fall on the house. So this is a way of getting way over to the other side of it to trim on that side, which will make it lean, fall towards you, away from the house. And I hope I'm going to be able to demonstrate that. We're in an area here where I usually demonstrate all kind of lawnmowers and trimmers and stuff, where you got a little bit of everything. And I'm thinking in that cluster there's going to be some branches that I can demonstrate that, and otherwise just plain old cutting. So at this point we're going off into that cluster to try to find some stuff to cut. Okay, looks like this is the best we're going to do. I see about a 2.5 inch branch in there, and it's way in there, and that's actually going to demonstrate why it's nice to have a chainsaw on a pole so that you can just reach in there and get that. I'll just make a few cuts on there, and maybe I'll zoom in at some point so that you can see, and that will do it. So let's do that now. Okay, I think that basically what you're looking at there is my inexperience with it. You gotta rev it way up. It is, for a chainsaw, it's a little weak. For the rest of the attachments, it's been going nice and strong. But like I said, the chainsaw is the hardest one for it to turn. So you gotta rev it up for the chainsaw, especially if you're going through something thick like that, as you just saw. So, there's that. But I mean, it did fine. Just gotta remember to rev it up before you get to the branch. Where is it? There it is. Okay, let's go get the brush cutter. Okay, so to use the brush cutter, what you do is you get your string trimmer attachment. Again, as you can see, I've got that installed on there again. And what you have to do is you have to remove your string trimmer head. And you do that just by, you find your hole here. There's a hole in the side, and you line that up with the inner hole, and you stick your Allen wrench in there, and that stops it from turning, and then you can this is just turned on, this is tightened on by hand. And you loosen by going to the right. It's not loosening by going to the left like normal. And that will come off by hand. And then to put this on, you do the same thing. You get your pin in there, but then this time you tighten it down with the wrench that came with it. And I just wanted to mention the owner's manual shows you exactly the setup that you need to do there. I just want to mention that you got this extra piece here that came with it, and that is not in the schematic, and it wasn't on the electric version, and I can't imagine what it is that they want you to do with that. So if you can't figure out what to do with that, neither can I. And it doesn't look like it's needed if you look at the setup there. So I have it installed the way they said to install it, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight into the thick of it there and just test it out. So let's do that. Yeah, no problem whatsoever with the brush cutter. No loss of power, no lack of power. Just went right through that like hot knife through butter. One of the things I really like is brush cutters. So anyway, there's no problem with the brush cutter, so let's go back to all the attachments and wrap this up. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. I'd say overall it did pretty well. The string trimmer worked just as good as my regular commercial string trimmer. The brush cutter was fantastic. The hedge trimmer did just fine. The only limitation, the only drawback was the chainsaw, and I think that's really just the difference between electric and gas is that electric has a lot more torque. If you watched my review on the electric one, it had no problem with the chainsaw. And so that's basically the issue. So you have to run the chainsaw pruner at pretty much full throttle to have kind of some momentum going into the cut. As for like a big cut, I don't even know if it was going to be like an 8-inch cut. I don't think that would be really good. Otherwise, just fine as a string trimmer and a hedge trimmer and a brush cutter and an edger, as I pointed out. It's actually 5-in-1. I've got to say it's pretty good, and if you want to get one, I'm sure that the link is in the description and the top pinned comment. You have your choice of this one or the electric one. I don't know if both links are going to be in there, but at some point I will, at the end of the video, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to one of the clickable end screens will be to the electric model, so that you can see how that one sizes up. Might be more your speed. But anyway, thanks for watching everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.